Welcome to the Brubacher and Beyond podcast, where we are exploring the people, projects, and progress shaping the construction industry. In this special Women in Construction series, we are highlighting the leaders, builders, problem solvers, and innovators who are making the impact across our fields. From the job site to the office, from the project management to equipment operators, women are helping drive the future of construction. Today we'll hear real stories about career paths, challenges, opportunities, and the advice that can help the next generation step into the industry, whether they are established in their career or just testing the waters. This conversation is designed to inform, encourage, and inspire. Let's get started. Welcome to the Brubacher and Beyond podcast. My name is Kristen Olovich, Director of Business Development, and we are recording this in-house today. Laurie Grove is our special guest here today. Laurie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am currently the Director of Career Services at Thaddeus College. I have been operating, kind of running the show, if you will, in career services for over 20 years. I came to higher ed from corporate America. So higher ed was not my first gig. I was the employer back in the day. I worked for the largest hotel chain in the world, Marriott International, and my whole background was sales. So it was fun for me to not only recruit from college campuses, but also train them, onboard them, and then ultimately, at the end of the day, it was all about being able to tuck my kids in at bed at night because it was a travel job. So my husband was working for a local high school, Ephrata High School, not far from here, and he had sent football players to Thaddeus for years and just heard through the grapevine that there might be a need there. And it was a really interesting and kind of cool transition to go from being the employer, being the sales trainer, if you will, to working together with students and faculty and industry to help them make those connections here at Thaddeus. And I think the background I had in the corporate world really gave me a little bit of an edge to help students understand what to expect in the workforce, but also to help me better be able to speak with employers and have a much better understanding of what they're going through, what they need, and to help build those connections.
So for people that are not close to us and might be in a different state or different time zone, what is Thaddeus? Can you just give us the high level?
You bet. So Thaddeus is a relatively small 2-year state-owned nonprofit technical college right here in South Central Pennsylvania, Lancaster County. The college itself was, created by Thaddeus the man back in the early 1900s, 1905 to be exact. And Thaddeus was responsible really for helping everything from freeing slaves, work directly with ensuring that all students receive free education. And he, the man himself, left money to start this college, which back in the day was to ensure that indigent orphans, men, boys, could get an education where in any other situation they would not. And so that was a deep-seated part of our mission. And over 100 years later, we are still ensuring that a large percentage of our population, it's roughly around 40% of our population, student enrollment, will come from some of the most financially disadvantaged backgrounds. It's a really key component of our mission and who we are. And then the other side of that is we are only going to offer technical curriculum programs that align with high demand, high skill, high wage occupations. It's really a critical component. We're not going to educate students for something that jobs don't exist. So those two pieces, I think, are what make Thaddeus so unique. We had the first female student enrolled in the college back in the 70s. And we can talk a little bit about how that has changed over the years, but it's been pretty remarkable to see, even in my time, the increase in the number of women that are entering these fields.
Yeah. So our other guest is internal. Jordan, you've been on the podcast before. Would you like to tell everybody what you do at Brubacher and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is really from the field. I came up through labor operator, supervisor, all the way up through to my role today is manager of people and development. Really just all things people, from training, development, leadership, performance, employee relations issues, and things like that. Anything to do with people. And that's really where my fire is. I enjoy working with people and really seeing them achieve things that they never thought were possible. And that aligns so closely with what Thaddeus is, and this is where I think our cultures align so much, is seeing people achieve things and find ways to just learn skills and find success in life when they never thought that they would even achieve that thing. And here at Brubacher, we talk about shaping the world. We talk about having that impact on somebody's life, whether it's for a few minutes or an entire career to retirement. And that truly is, I think, why our partnership works so well. I think I've known you now, Laurie, for 5 or 6 years.
Oh, yeah, at least.
And, we've had the privilege of working alongside Thaddeus to develop the civil program and the diesel program that really just started as ideas and came to fruition. And now we're graduating students and sending students off into the workforce, and some of the most high potential individuals that are advancing quickly through those programs. And it's all because of the heart of Thaddeus and us partnering with that, our heart to see people grow and develop. And it's just great to see.
So our highlight for this is women in construction, and we want to touch upon this a little bit, but from your perspective, right, where do you see the construction industry at right now, and where's it going?
So, currently right now, obviously we know that there's a shortage, right? There's a shortage of skilled workforce. We understand that. But I think what we're really looking at is there's some generational shifts. We have workers that are 55 and older and who are a large percentage, right, of workers who a lot of that knowledge and skill and wisdom is going to be leaving once they retire. And how do we fill that with a younger generation of workers, but who are interested? So what I'm seeing is an increase in the younger generation saying, wait, I don't know if I want a 4-year degree. This is crazy. Am I going to get a job? Do I want to be in debt? Do I want to have a mortgage payment when I first graduate from college? So we are seeing this shift in the younger generation saying, wait, I want to see what these trades are. However, the younger generation has a different idea of what's important to them when they're on the job. And it doesn't matter if that job is on a job site. It doesn't matter if that job is in front of a computer inside all day. Their thoughts and ideas about what they need and what is important is different than it was for me. When I first came out of school, I often joke a little bit that Gen Xers, all we know is work, right? We don't know how to say no. But what I have really learned from the younger generation is they can say no. They know how to say no. It's not that they don't want to work. They want to work. But they want to be valued. They want to know that the work that they're doing, ultimately, there's a reason to why they're doing what they're doing. They're not just showing up, right? They want to know what I'm doing right now. Is it going to affect the big picture moving forward? So when it comes to the construction industry, I see that, yes, there is this generational thing where you've got a lot of older workers that are leaving. But it's also, how do we as industry in the construction field adjust to welcome this younger generation in, so that they're doing the work you need them to do, but that we are also supporting them in a way that they want to stay and grow within. I also think AI is going to be playing a role. So we were just talking about software earlier, right? So I don't care if it's a CAD software, if it's software development, if it's an HR software, AI is playing a role. And while it's not going to necessarily eliminate jobs, I do think it's going to change the way jobs are done. And I think industry, especially with the younger generation coming up, needs to pay attention and think about how are we going to upskill and train our own workforce so that they can better utilize the AI tools that are coming down the pike, because they're coming.
Yeah.
You got to look at them. But I think that obviously the numbers speak for themselves nationally in the hundreds of thousands of jobs that are going to be needed. So I think it's really important that we look to this younger workforce and we figure out how to motivate them to want to stick around.
Yeah, in the construction industry also, there's a lot of benefits to it. Not just the pay, not just the vacations, not just all the things that we can talk about that the construction industry has increased to be competitive against other fields, right? The construction industry is making an investment in people.
Yeah.
And not a lot of industries you can just step in at an entry level and then work your way up to the top, where that can be done in the construction industry.
Exactly.
So from the women in construction, what do you see from your perspective that has changed in the construction industry for women to be invited into the industry?
Yeah, so there's some examples of companies that are doing it really well. I'll throw one out there just because we've recently worked with them about this. So Benchmark Construction has something, you've heard of affinity groups. So an affinity group is basically a group that maybe an organization establishes to support, in this case, women, right? So they have an organization called Women's Empowerment Group. And so they're encouraging that, number one, when women are coming on board, they're being onboarded in a very intentional way, that they're provided with mentors. So mentor could be a man or a woman. A mentor for a woman doesn't have to be a woman, right?
Okay.
But they're providing them with somebody who's going to actually walk with them through this early onboarding. In addition, think about being intentional when you put women out in the job site. Make sure that they're not the only woman on the job site, right? Make sure there are other women that are around that they can talk to, that they can relate to, and then engage with and get involved with organizations such as NAWIC, as an example. So Benchmark is a big supporter of NAWIC. They sponsor many of their events, but their Women's Empower group will bring external individuals in to talk with the women that are working at Benchmark. And I just think that that's a really great intentional way to ensure that women are supported. That's just one example. But in general, I would say that's an example of a positive, right? But we also see where women, in general, the numbers don't lie. Women outperform our men in school, educationally, academically.
Yep.
Often, women are outperforming men as it pertains to the actual skills that they're doing. And women are getting jobs just as fast, same rate as men. But we know 5 years down the road, women are not staying in that position at the same rate men are. We know that. I'm basing that based on just our Thaddeus Stevens grads. We know that, but industry dictates that as well. Pay disparity is still there. Women are not making as much as men for the same roles in construction. That is true in general across the board. Now, if I look at a Thaddeus Stevens grad, Thaddeus Stevens women are earning about the same starting out 5 years out, because we reach out to and talk to our grads. 5 years again, we stay really in touch with our grads. They're making less. So that's in general, right?
Yeah.
That's across the board in general. So while, yes, there are some really great things that are happening out there, I think what's important is that industry drive a lot of these conversations, that industry's aware. Have you heard of Lydia Hamilton Smith?
No.
So Lydia Hamilton Smith was a close personal partner of Thaddeus Stevens, and she, as a Black woman, was responsible, very much so, with helping Thaddeus Stevens accomplish much of what he did. And she is celebrated, obviously, wildly here at Thaddeus Stevens, but in general across the state. The reason I'm bringing her up is that we had a panel of female grads with us last week. And one of the things we talked about is some of the things that we're talking about today. And to listen to the graduates talk about some of the things they wish they knew when they were here at Stevens, talk about some of the things that are roadblocks and preventing them from sticking around, preventing them from maybe moving up, right? And the audience that day were faculty and students and staff of Thaddeus Stevens for the most part. There were some industry reps there. And all of the young women said they wish they could do this with an audience of industry, an audience of employers, so the employers could hear from them what their experiences have been. And every single one of them were the only woman in their class when they were at Stevens. They are the only woman on the job where they work now. And one of the young women said that she was the only woman in her field for the first 10 years out.
Wow.
So it's really interesting to hear. So even while industry, Jordan all the time at our OAC meetings is saying, we want women. We do. We want women. But what is industry doing to support those women when they get here? Because most often, yes, you're going to hire them.
Yep.
You're going to put them on the job site. But then what happens? So, Brubacher, you guys do a great job of supporting everybody here at your organization. But I think it's important that industry recognizes and realizes that if you're going to bring a woman on to work in a job that is male-dominated, they are going to require a little more support.
So I have 4 daughters, and all of them are figuring out, are they going to college? Are they going to be in a trade? Like, we're in those paths. Does a woman want to have more support from their employer, or is that a negative? Like, hey, you're giving me too much support, or is that not realistic?
That's a great question. I can come at it from 2 perspectives. One is a mom of 2 daughters who are in non-traditional fields and who graduated from Stevens.
Okay.
They do not want extra. They don't want to feel like they're standing out.
Yes.
However, they want to know that they're being heard. So you got to nuance it a little bit, right? So they want to be heard. They want to know that their voices are being heard. They also want to know that if they do experience something that they're uncomfortable with, that if they use their voice and they speak up, it's okay, right? They want to know that if they have questions they can ask without retribution. These are comments coming from our graduates specifically, right? So no, they don't want to be singled out and made to feel like, oh, they need more. However, think about your daughters. You have you said 4 daughters,
4,
right?
yeah.
So the other thing we need to do is we need to be able to empower these young women who are going into these fields to be able to use their voice, to be able to speak up, to be able to say, this is what I need, right? But also help them understand that just sheer grit, the ability to just stick to it, integrity, doing what you say you're going to do, showing up on time every day, that sets the example. So again, nothing that we wouldn't tell any other young person coming up, going into these fields, but with women, for the most part, in many cases, they will be the only woman in that position.
Yeah.
So it's helping everybody within that organization recognize that even just to go to the bathroom might take a little longer. The fact that a woman might decide to have a child. The fact that a woman might need to take a little time because their child needs to go to a doctor's appointment or their child was sent home from school. What do? How do they handle that? What does that look like? So again, it's the kinds of issues and things that women might face that not all men do all the time. Many do, but not the same all the time, right? What does childcare look like? One of the audiences we talk about all the time is single moms who want to get back into the workforce. What a phenomenal career for them to go into, but how do we support them? Daycare is really expensive.
Yeah.
And how do we support them and ensure flexibility? One of the biggest topics, if you will, that was brought up at the panel we did last week at the Lydia Hamilton Smith Day was the idea of flexibility in a workday and recognizing that you could have the best worker on the planet working for you, but if that person can't go pick up their child when they need to,
That's a roadblock.
they're not going to stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that that we think about. A lot of times we talk about what are we looking for in a new hire? What's important? EQ, emotional intelligence, is brought up all the time. Many argue that innately women just have a really fantastic ability to be able to communicate, to be able to diffuse situations, to be able to read a room in a way that helps bring everyone onto the same page. And those are skill sets that many women can bring to a job that we don't often think about.
Yeah, and I think you said something there about the idea of the traits, the things that really any person looking for a career or a job needs to do. But I think the reality is that's great. Unfortunately, I think the industry themselves often makes it harder for women to be successful.
Yes.
And I think that's where the reality is there's not people lining up to get into the trades all day long.
Right.
And we're losing more every day than we're gaining.
Right.
And we can come up with all kinds of excuses. We can point the finger here. But the reality is it's us. And I think the biggest thing, I truly believe this, that if we, again, look at something that we are stewarding, right? Something that we're borrowing. So we're entrusted with this industry for the time that we're here. So we need to do the best we can for it. And we need to get out of our own way. We need to change. We need to change and adjust and evolve to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity. Everybody has the same ability to make a living, to make a great living, to learn skills and develop, and has that flexibility. I was talking with someone just last week, and just the simple fact that most daycares function in a 10-hour window. Well, we work 10 hours a day. So let alone the single mom that's trying to build a career and provide a life for her kids, it also impacts the single dad. And we're hurting ourselves by putting these restraints on our industry and not thinking, okay, this is the way we've always done it, but how do we work towards the future? How do we give people the opportunity? And that's where I love the idea of the panel of the women coming back, the graduates, and explaining their experiences. And we don't do that enough.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Even before we sat down here and started chatting, we were talking a little bit about the difference with the new generation and some of the things that they're looking for and what they need. And you're right, absolutely. It's not just women, it's everybody. It's everybody. But the flexibility, I have seen companies that have done things differently to meet some of these demands, roadblocks, barriers, whatever you want to call them. And it would apply for both men and women. So when I think about flex schedules, it's even splitting a position, right? So you have a 10-hour day, but I don't know, is it possible to have two people sharing that job? I don't know, right? So it's things to think about, to look at. I've worked with companies in the past who've spent years trying to recruit a student from Stevens to get them to work for one of their facilities in Virginia. And, I don't know about this generation, but they don't want to leave their hometowns in general, right? Not everybody. And finally, he got someone to intern at this facility. And at the end of the day, when the student graduated, like, nope, I love the experience. I love the summer, but I'm not going to work there full time. I'm not going to come there. It's too far away. And that company said, what is it going to take? Like, what can we do to get you? Because we have job sites all over, right?
Yeah.
What can we do? And it boiled down to, it wasn't money. They were offering the most money. Like, it wasn't that.
Oh.
It boiled down to they didn't want to have to use up their vacation time to fly home and see their family. That was the only way
That was the roadblock.
Yeah.
Right, that was it. Like, I want to have a vacation. I want to do that, but I don't want to use up my vacation every year just to fly home to see my family.
Yeah.
And it cost that company so much less to give that individual 1 week, all expenses paid. They bought his plane ticket, sent him home for a week every year to see his family, and it did not cut into his vacation time,
Yeah.
and it cost far less than what they were willing to offer him monetarily. And they realized, oh my gosh, they now have one of the most detailed a la carte benefits packages I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And every year, their employees can go in there and they can re-choose what their benefits are going to be.
Yeah, because it changes, right?
It changes.
Season,
Your seasons change.
when you get married,
Yep.
your
Yep.
needs are different than when you have four
Yeah.
children. Your needs are different.
Everything-
and
it is.
flexibility is important.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Think about our students who are graduating. Some of them, they come straight from high school, they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
A lot of them are still on their parents' insurance. They
Yeah.
don't need insurance. In their mind, they're thinking,
they don't need it
I'm on my
till-
parents till I'm 26.
Yeah.
Well, can't you just up my hourly rate? No, that's not how it works. However, it could.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it could. So maybe, okay, we'll give you a few more dollars an hour, right? For now. But when you need insurance, you get to re-choose. And maybe you take a few bucks less. It's all about being willing to think outside the box. And again, that's with reference to men and women. But I think you're right, Jordan. I think industry in general just needs to start thinking a little bit differently about how to not just recruit, because recruit isn't really hard. It's retain
Yep.
the talent that you have. That's really where it's difficult.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many opportunities for improvement across the board, right? And I remember it from back when I was an employer, and now thinking about my children and then the generation now that's going through and what their needs are really different than what mine were back in the day.
Yeah, and I think we acknowledge the fact that folks want to belong to something
Yep.
today. And we take that from a bird's eye view and we say, yes, folks want to belong to the company that they're building a career at. But in reality, if we drill down, folks want to belong to their surroundings, right? They want somebody in their corner. They want somebody to walk alongside them, to teach them these life skills, to teach them physical skills, to teach them how to build a career. And we do this thing, it's everywhere. It's not just this industry. We do this thing where we associate like, yeah, we have really good culture here at Brubacher. Well, that's easy to say. It's different to say, I have really good culture in my team.
Yep.
And it's that personal ownership, again, being good stewards of what we're entrusted to say that personal ownership of, I'm going to make sure the culture on my team, the people around me, my peers, is top notch. And that's going to take investment. That's going to take time. It's not always efficient, but it produces such an exponential gain in the long run. And it's one of those Keith sayings we always say all the time. We have Keith sayings around Brubacher, and he talks about, it doesn't matter the dirt that we move, the pipe that we put in the ground, the asphalt, any of those things. Like, at the end of the day, all we're going to remember is the experience.
Yes.
And that is what's most important with our investment in shaping the world and investing in others, mentoring and growing. And it's that personal ownership.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's interesting. One of the women on the panel last week, she said very clearly, one of the questions was, if you could tell any of the students here today, like, what's a piece of advice? And she said, my advice to you is to earn it. Mm-hmm. And she said, remember, every one of us, no matter what our skill set is going into it, when we start somewhere, it's day one, right? Like, we're at the bottom. Nobody has any idea what our work ethic is. They don't know what our skills are yet. Yes, we have a resume. Yes, we have our skills listed there, but they don't know until they see us. Mm-hmm. And regardless of whether you're a woman or a man going into this, always think in the back of your mind, earn it.
Yeah.
Once you earn that respect, once people see, hey, I'm the one who shows up, I'm the one, then you catapult up from there. But it's building your own brand. It's building your own reputation. And so, Jordan, when you talk about you as an individual who wants to ensure that your teams are filled with integrity and they respect each other, this message, I think, is really important for anyone who's entering the workforce right now. Go into it with the mindset that it is your responsibility to follow up in any situation. It's your responsibility to kind of prove that you can do it. Mm-hmm. Nobody else knows who you are, so show them who you are. And that was a really powerful message coming from one of our female graduates who said, be the person that everyone else wants to go to.
Yep.
Be the person that, hey, if there's an issue, go to Jordan or go to Mary. They'll do it. They know it.
Yeah, and I think the key there is where it gets kind of skewed is proving isn't always loud.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? And I think there's a lot of times where, talking about women in construction, a few years ago I was at another local tech school, Berks County Career and Tech, and they have a heavy equipment program that I worked with a group of other industry professionals to develop that program and get it rolling, and it's doing phenomenal. And there was a young woman that was in a backhoe, and I was there just hanging out for the day on the training area, just kind of talking to students. And she was literally digging a trench with a backhoe and loading it into a dump truck. And I was watching her from a distance, and I was like, wow, she's actually really smooth. She's doing well. And I kind of walked over, and I'm going to give away some of my tricks here, but I had to make a few phone calls. So I kind of made my way over towards her work area, and I was just on the phone, just kind of pacing and talking and kind of keeping an eye on things. But I've found that if people see you on the phone, it kind of lowers their anxiety or their nervousness that somebody's watching. So I watched her dig a trench. I got off the phone and I walked up to her and introduced myself. Hey, how you doing? And she started kind of explaining, and you could see right away the passion she had for the industry. But it was, I'm going to show you, and it's not loud. And she was, I would say, she lacked confidence in what she could do. And here she is. She was a junior at the time, looking to get into this industry that's predominantly male-dominated. Yeah. And she's dealing with a lot of loud male classmates that are all fighting over egos and who can do the best and the fastest. And so we talked, and I'm like, you can really be successful here. And I was like, I would really like the opportunity for you to come to Brubacher, and let's see where you can grow. She came and interned with us that year. She came out on co-op and then is now a full-time employee and just an amazing part of the team. She's run an excavator, haul trucks. She's run quad track this summer. And again, her confidence has grown, and it's been people that superintendents and foremen and site assistants and other operators that have really built that trust with her to where they have each other's back, and she's highly sought after. But at the end of the day, it's a quiet confidence. She's going to show up. She's going to prove it. And I tell people all the time is I love hiring women because they just show up and they do the work and they do it well and they learn so quick. And every guy out there is out to impress or show off or has an ego and all this stuff. And it's like, I just want people to show up and work together, want to work together and do their job.
Exactly.
From your experience, and you mentioned your daughters, what does the young woman that lacks the confidence need? And then what is the industry, what can we do to help create that safe space, that safe environment to let somebody flourish?
So twofold. Number one, you've got a perfect person right here at Brubacher that you just talked about to help model what that looks like, right? So if there are opportunities, if a company like Brubacher, anybody has a woman who is working in one of these fields that are dominated by men, because that's what we're talking about right now, get them in front of other women. We've talked about in the past how early is too early to start talking to girls, right? Young women about careers in the construction industry. I don't think it's ever too early. Middle school's a great time to start. They're old enough to kind of get an understanding, like, I get it, right? But if you're able to get somebody from your team in to talk with and be around prospective women, get her in there, right? Because we all want to be able to envision ourselves doing the work.
Yeah.
But I think in general, it's just encouraging women to research. I mean, to me, my advice to any young person who's trying to figure out what they want to do, especially in the construction world in general, research it. Check it out, see what's out there. They can get on ONET and see what kind of careers are out there, what kind of money can you make. You can go to Career Ready Lancaster. It's a phenomenal organization. They have all kinds of tapped in resources to help young women even do job shadows. Get a hold of a local contractor, right? And say, hey, can I come check it out for a day, see what it's like? When I think about young women and what they can do, go to Thaddeus Stevens has an open house coming up in April. Get in there, see what it's about. Check out the CTCs. If you're in early high school, is this something you want to get into? Start now. ABC in Mount Joy, check them out. Are there apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships? And what does that look like? And I mean, I could talk about this forever. And there's so many avenues that young women can go and try on, right? Get a feel for. But when a company has a woman working in one of these occupations, it is just power and utilize that and get that woman out in front of other women, young women who might be interested. I think that's a fantastic best practice if we're able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I would say one of the suggestions I give to my daughters is test it out. There's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, hey, this wasn't for me, I didn't like it. Thank you for the opportunity, but I'm going to move on. That's okay to do. Like, at the end of the day, you need to be able to try it, see if you like it. And I think that's one of the things when you're younger, a year, 6 months could seem so long for you, where really when you get older, that's a short period of your time. So spend some time, test it out, and then see if you like it or not, and then move forward. So through everything that we just talked about, you're interested in the industry, you're thinking about putting yourself out there, trying out new things. But then the next steps is a crucial piece, right? We want to give somebody an action step that they can utilize if they are listening to this. And that would be further your education, right? Because they're coming out of high school, maybe they don't know what to do, or maybe they do know what they want to do, right? And then finding that place that's going to give you further education. So let's circle up on this and talk about this. What are the next steps? What are out there for people for further education?
Absolutely. We already know that any kind of skill set that you want to go into, any career you want to go into, for the most part, you're going to need post-secondary education. And that just means you're going to need something after high school. It could be a certificate. It could be an apprenticeship. It could be a 2-year degree. It could be a 4-year degree. It depends on what you want to go for. But the key thing is, number one, decide in advance, like figure it out, decide an idea of what you want to do. We talked about that earlier, ways that you can try it out, right? Yeah. Where can you go to kind of look for careers? We mentioned those already in the podcast, but now if you've decided what you want to do, now you got to figure out how do you get that skill? Where do you go to get the education? And before you make that decision, you want to make sure you're asking yourself some really important questions. So number one, regardless of where you go, whether it's a 4-year school, 2-year school, I don't care. Ask the question. Number one, of the people, the individual students who started this particular program at your institution, how many graduated within the time frame they were supposed to? 2 years for a 2-year school, 4 years to a 4-year school.
Yeah.
How many? Of those who graduated, how many of them actually went into the field that they went to school for?
Yep.
Ask the college or institution those questions. Those are critical.
They have the answers.
Or they don't. And if they don't,
that's
a
bigger red flag.
That's a bigger red flag, right?
100%.
So they should have the answers. And if they don't, you really want to think twice about it. And then ask yourself, or ask them to tell you, because they should be able to tell you. Of those who do go into that field, what are they earning when they start out? What are they earning 5 years down the road? That's really important information because you, as an individual student, will be responsible. Maybe your parents will, but ultimately it's you who'll be responsible for the financial burden of whatever that education is.
Yeah.
Can you afford it? Does it make sense to you? Ask those questions. And again, there's so many different ways and career pathways. Maybe you decide I'm going to get a short-term certificate and it's going to give me a feel I can start entry level. That short-term certificate could then lead you to a 2-year degree. And maybe that 2-year degree a few years down the road leads to a 4-year degree because you're moving up within the industry, and maybe the company that you're working for has a tuition reimbursement plan and they're going to help you pay for it. But these are the kinds of things you really want to think about leading into. And then if we talk specifically about the construction industry, where can you get those credentials right now? And we'll talk Lancaster County because that's kind of where we are right now, but really all of central Pennsylvania. I'll talk about Thaddeus Stevens first simply because that's where I work, right? So we offer all kinds of 2-year programming in the construction field. We also have a workforce and economic development center that offers short-term 6-month training that students can get into and kind of get a feel for what it's like. We work very closely with ABC, with our local apprenticeships. Honestly, there's so many different ways that you can go into it. If you are in high school still, please check out the CTCs, see what they're all about. Thaddeus Stevens has an open house coming up in April. I highly encourage you to get in there, and Jordan's probably going to be there. Go check out the civil program and see what that's all about. But in general, you want to be sure that you are asking questions, have your parents, your caregivers talk with you about this, and I'm going to a message to parents and caregivers, because that is sometimes the most difficult audience to reach and to get to. And they are the single most important decision maker when it comes to helping motivate or encourage a student to go into a certain trade or field. Ask the questions. Look at what jobs are actually in demand. Think about, as a parent, our job, our goal is to raise our children to be independent, raise our children to be compassionate, to give back to the world, give back to society. But bottom line, we need them to be financially able to not only support themselves, but their families, unless we want them to live in our basement for the rest of their lives. But that's our goal. That's what we want for them. And so it's really incumbent upon us to encourage them to pursue careers in fields that truly align with in-demand, but more importantly, high-skilled jobs that are going to provide a wage that allows them to not just survive, but thrive in today's economy, I think is critically important.
And so one of those things through all those steps, I mean, I think you said it the best, is the people that are around them have influence on that decision. Make sure you do ask all the questions, have them prepared, and spend the quality time. The one thing that I think has changed from when I was looking at post-education, the trade industry, there's more people getting involved. There's a lot more opportunity. I wouldn't say it was frowned upon, but it wasn't highlighted by my school system, the path that I wanted to go back in the day. And so now I think that has changed though too. There is more recognition of the traits more than ever.
Yeah, I think it's actually changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
My oldest graduated from high school in 2011, and she never once in her entire time in high school did anyone ever say to her, "You're good in math. Did you ever think about engineering?" No one ever.
Yeah.
She thought she was going to be a history teacher until she realized there's no jobs. She still loves history, still loves to read, but...
That's a good hobby.
Yeah,
it can be a very good hobby.
But again, high school isn't always just the target audience either, right?
Yep.
So there's just so much untapped talent out there that we're not going after. We didn't talk at all about what I call the returnship. Right? And that is, and I put myself in this category, right? So those of us who are retiring or soon to retire, people are retiring younger, people are living longer, people are healthy, people are eager, and you've got an entire population of individuals who don't need health insurance because they're already on Medicare.
Yep.
They don't need extra benefits. They just want to work and do great. They don't want to work full time, but they could provide an incredible infusion of wisdom and talent into many of these fields. We're not thinking about it, right? And then we've got those individuals who started a 4-year school and didn't finish, and they are underemployed. They don't know what to do. There's a huge population of college stop-outs, if you will. These are those students who tried, who started, didn't finish for many reasons. Maybe they were broke, maybe they couldn't afford it, maybe it wasn't for them. We have a growing number of students attending Stevens that already have a bachelor's degree. We have students that come to us that have 2 bachelor's degrees and can't afford their student loans.
Yeah.
So they're looking for a career that's going to actually pay them a
Pay them.
salary to do that. So there's a lot of populations out there that I think we're not hitting, that we're not tapping into. That industry can play a really huge role in helping to tap into those populations.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it before. High schools. I think there's so many students, we talk about trying things out, trying to figure out what you want to do. And my biggest advice to those students is try something.
Yes.
Try to work, whether it's a family friend or you can go get a job in high school and work those summers. And that's just such a great opportunity to try things out with no room for error. I mean, if you don't like it, okay, you don't do it next summer, right? And I think it gives you abilities and you learn skills to be well-rounded. I think this is going to be a whole completely different topic, but there's something happening in culture to where you have to decide what you want to do with your life so early, and then you have to dump everything into that one thing for your entire life year round. You know, we see it in sports, we see it in all kinds of different things, and we're losing as a culture just well-rounded, just good contributors.
Yes.
And we're all created differently, so we're all unique in our own way, but try things out. And then I think too, it's interesting, you mentioned the parents. I couldn't count on my hands how many business cards I've given out to students that they said their parents have questions, and I'll just give my card, hey, have your parents call me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we in industry, we want all the results, but we want it to be somebody else's job. And at the end of the day, we've all got to be recruiters. We all got to be salesmen. We all got to be career developers and mentors and coaches and leaders. And how do we help not just this generation enter the workforce, but how do we educate their parents on the opportunities? Because their parents are much like all of us in different ways, shapes, or forms, where it was kind of looked down upon to enter the trades.
Right.
And we've got to work through that and show them what can be and explain it, and shadow days and investments. It's going to cost money, but we all have to work together at this. And we, as specifically a construction industry, we've got to get out and target those elementary school, those high school, those middle schoolers, and explain to them the opportunities and how what they're learning now, those skills transfer into actual life skills. Mm-hmm. And if you can connect that, then you light the passion. But the other thing against us in the construction industry is whether it's labor force, labor and industry, workplace rules and regulations, and we've got to, again, adjust to how do we accommodate these young individuals and give them opportunities to learn skills and try things out and start to work so that they can actually light the passion that they have inside of us that replicates me sitting on top of a little Tonka excavator in the sandbox digging dirt, and I'm like, holy cow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look at my kids. I have a son that's 11 and a daughter that's 9 and 7, and my middle daughter for the longest time was like, I want to run an excavator. And for so many years I was like, I'm not sure I want you to work in the same industry. But how do we change that? How do we take that young individual that sees something, says I want to do that, and how do we get them young enough to teach them the skills and put them on a path? And not saying that you're locked in, but how do we create well-rounded people that can thrive in whatever they choose to do when the moment hits?
I agree completely. You mentioned the comment that went through your mind of, I don't know if I want her to work in this industry.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, right? So we work with companies that surveyed their entire group of employees, and one of the questions they asked was, would you recommend this job or this company to your child?
Yeah.
And it was an overwhelming no. So this is an example of just one company, right? But I would expect that there are others. Here's an example. Manheim Township High School's 3 through 9 committee. And I just remember one year we were sitting in there and a parent was on the committee. We were talking about apprenticeships and Stevens as it pertained to, could be construction, manufacturing, whatever. And a parent was like, yes, they're the best. Like, this is the best. This is the best. And then somebody asked him, well, where's your son or daughter going to school? What are they going to do? And they were going, I don't know, who knows, right? Penn State to do something, who knows? And he goes, well, I mean, yeah, for their kids, right? So there's that mentality thing. There's that. So my point to that is, you mentioned that as little kids, You, Jordan, you loved playing with your trucks and you were like, I know I want to do this. I've got a grandson right now who literally is obsessed with every piece of construction equipment on the planet. He knows what they are. He wants to be a builder. What is a 6-year-old?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to help keep that, like, passion?
Yeah,
I mean, this kid that is all he wants to do. So what programming is out there? And I could list them too. We could talk about
that's
it,
a
right?
way deeper
So it's another thing, but whether it's women or men, just so happens to be your daughter and my grandson, but there's so many others out there that it's keeping it. We have a K through 16 department, and Dr. Melissa Day does phenomenal work throughout Pennsylvania with kindergartners all the way through high school and beyond. But that's the question always, is trying to get that passion and that motivation they have. Early on in the podcast, Chris, you mentioned, or you made a comment about, I don't know if it was something about follow your passions or follow your something of that nature. In general, though, I think we far too often tell our kids, our students, men and women, to follow their passions, and I think that's a massive disservice. I think we need to challenge them to follow their talents, to follow what they do. What you're doing, what you're excited about, playing with trucks, but that isn't just a passion. That then becomes something that they're talented in because they do it all the time, right?
Yep.
So I think that's another thing that we have to be careful of and focus on. But think about our women who are at Stevens now, and we've got almost 170 women at Thaddeus Stevens right now. So there were less than 50 when I started. So that's telling you something. Like, that's exciting. Do we want more? You bet.
Yep.
Are they a small percentage? Absolutely. But it has grown so much over the years, the number of women that are on this campus. And whatever industry can do to help provide an environment that not just allows them to want to work there, that's not the key, but that allows them to want to stay and progress and move up within that company. I think if we can figure that out, that's going to be the magic ticket that kind of moves the needle in a way that we need it to move.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we're going to end this on a good note then, right there. That just landed this plane. For all of our listeners out there, if you like our podcast, please let us know you like it. If you don't like it, if you have topics that you would like to hear us talk about, please send that to us. Thank you for your time today. We look forward to maybe another podcast in the future and anything that we can do to help out Thaddeus Stevens. It's a great cause. It's a great education. If anybody has any questions and wants to learn more about the construction industry at Brubacher, please reach out to Jordan. That is his job, people. People is his job, and he's passionate about it. Thank you all for this. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Brubacher Podcast today. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our podcast so you can listen to the new episodes each month. Share it with your friends in the industry and those who might like to learn more about the construction industry. Feel free to check out our website at www.brubacher.net. I'm Keith Brubacher, president of Brubacher Excavating Incorporated, and we hope you found our discussion insightful, and we look forward to the next time together.